Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to Power Talk Friday on A Well-Designed Business. I just wanted to pop in here before the show starts to point out to you a little magic gift from the universe this week. Things conspired and worked out very nicely. And what I'm talking about is today's show with Fred Berns he is discussing with us what he has discovered to be the 7 habits of highly effective luxury interior designers. And by coincidence, I had interviewed Sandra Espinay, episode 287 on Monday her firm is out of Mexico, and she is a luxury interior designer. And then I interviewed Jason Oliver Nixon, one half of the fabulous dynamic duo of Madcap Cottage. And the thing is that you'll hear in the show, I had interviewed Fred and then interviewed Sandra. And I was saying to him how what he was talking about were things that she had described herself, having no idea that our conversation was going to happen. But I could see the relationship to what he was saying to the things that she was telling us about her interior design firm. And then the same thing happened when I then had a conversation with Jason Oliver Nixon of Madcap Cottage. So I just wanted to point out to you that if you take the 3 shows as a whole, because I know often you guys are popping around and going in and out, but this is a good opportunity to take what Fred teaches us and then go back and listen to these 2 interior designers describe in their own words the reality of what Fred has described. I think it was pretty amazing for me. I was like, whoa, he's saying exactly what they said. So I thought it was interesting, and I thought it really just hammered home the points that Fred made. And of course, I never doubt Fred in his word. He always does his homework. He's an excellent business coach, but it really was very, very interesting how so close on the heels of the conversation the 3 of these were and how much they did align. So I thought you might like to know about that. All right. The other thing is that I did do a free PDF download for you of the 7 habits of luxury interior designers. You can grab that for yourself at luannigara.com/Fred Berns. A reminder that Fred's last name is Berns. Okay, so the free PDF of the things I learned from Fred Berns, the 7 habits of highly effective luxury interior designers, available for you at luannigara.com/Fred Berns. Okay, on to today's show. Have a great day. Hey, everybody. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday, and I have happy news. Fred Berns is back with me. Hi, Fred. How are you?
Good day. Happy New Year, and it's great to be back.
I'm smiling just knowing you're on the other end of the line here, Fred. You and I have become such great friends over these 2 years. You know, my podcast is just about 2 years old now.
A happy birthday to A Well-Designed Business.
I know. And I met you very, very, very in the beginning. I have to say, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I found you by Googling best interior design business coaches, and your name came up. Yep. And
I paid big money to get on that list.
And so since the beginning of my podcast, you have been on the show. Let's see, episode 22, How to Create a Killer Bio. Number 48, Keys to a Killer Website. Number 96, Selling Methods of the Masters. Number 174, Own Your Only Words and Discover What They Are. And number 226, 5 Keys to Jumpstart Your Fall Marketing. So it's amazing. And I'm just, for all the new listeners out there, if you are a new listener and this is the first time you're hearing Fred is one of our most favorite returning guests because his advice is so actionable, and so you just wait. He's going to fire this stuff off at me and my head's going to spin. So, but if you are new, let me tell you a little bit about Fred. Fred Berns is the only interior design industry business coach and speaker who creates personal bios and other promo materials for design professionals worldwide. Fred has more than 25 years experience training design professionals from Dallas to Dubai, and he helps create their online profiles, their websites, their social media copy, blogs, and marketing forms. Okay, and in addition to this, he offers a wide range of business coaching services, and these include his high performance coaching program, his bio briefing, and his website once over. So honest to goodness, I always love it when you're on the show. And today, Fred is going to talk to us about the 7 habits of highly effective luxury interior designers. And before you tell us about these 7 habits, share with us, Fred, how you have come to this information.
First, I'm going to tell you a very quick story about this title, and then I'm going to tell you about how I got the information.
Okay.
Years ago, I had just written a book called Sell Yourself, 501 Ways to Get Them to Buy From You. I was at a conference where a bunch of authors were promoting their books, and the gentleman on before me just spoke on and on and on. It cut into my time. I was really upset. I was thinking, who is this nobody to get up there to steal my valuable time? It was an audience with several hundred attendees. It turns out that nobody happened to be Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. So in retrospect, I think that he was perfectly justified to talk as long as he wanted to, because he had a heck of a book he was promoting, obviously.
You still have to be polite. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So,
all right, but that's pretty cool to be on the same stage.
We were not drinking buddies after that. I was pretty upset, but in retrospect, what can I say?
Okay.
So here's what I'm up to, Luann, and this is where this program comes from. I am in the process this year of reaching out to the most financially successful designers in the world. For those of you familiar with the publication Architectural Digest, each year they publish something called the AD 100 of the top. It's a list of the top designers and architects in the world. And so I have reached out to them. I'm in the process of reaching out to them. I've just started this thing. And the focus is how top interior designers built their careers. And so I'm reaching out and asking to interview them, doing a survey. And then the idea is I'll submit my report to publications and podcasts and trade associations later on. So
I love it.
That is, I guess what we're talking about is the methods of the masters, how the most successful designers and architects got to where they are today. A survey of the top designers and architects in the world based on the Architectural Digest list of the AD 100, both past and present members of this fraternity or sorority or whatever it is. And so I'm getting some really good insights. I'm not really, I've kind of sworn to secrecy. I don't mention names, but just to put it in perspective, these are the kinds of designers and architects whose clients include the King and Queen of Belgium, and Oprah, and Glenn Close, and Will Ferrell, and John McEnroe, and Cameron Diaz, and Gwen Stefani, and Kanye West, and Robert De Niro, and Diane von Furstenberg, and Bette Midler, and Jerry Seinfeld. And they work on projects like estates in Malibu, and hotels in Monte Carlo, and the Four Seasons hotel chain, and homes in the Hamptons, and homes in Switzerland, and resorts in Panama, and homes in Barcelona, and apartments for the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and ski chalets in Jackson Hole. So that gives you an idea of the caliber.
Yeah, we're sufficiently intrigued.
So we got some rock stars here. And,
yes.
These are the people I hope to be talking to throughout the year and getting their insights as to how they got to where they are.
First of all, what a great idea, Fred. High five on that. That's awesome. I think that's so brilliant of you to, just think about that niche as something to just reach out and do this research on. So we're going to get a little teaser of some of the things that you've already been learning that designers at this level have in common.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And what's going to be, I think, interesting about our discussion here, Luann, is the fact that what we're going to talk about is surprisingly simple and basic ideas. We're not talking about cutting edge, state-of-the-art rocket science habits. These are just success strategies which these very successful designers have used, and the difference is they're applying all of them, and a lot of our listeners are not.
Okay.
Basically. So
And
I
you know
think
what's funny, Fred, is so often that's actually the truth. We're all looking for the most, unheard of, amazing, tap into secret thing. And it's usually
some
just
kind of app or some kind of technology.
Yeah, it's usually like just get up and do something today.
It's really, this is sales and marketing 101 in many cases. But these people are doing this stuff, and they're doing it consistently.
And intentionally, probably, right? Intentionally,
exactly.
Yes.
And
okay.
They've been shortcuts to success for them.
So what is some of the characteristics that you're finding that they share in common? What is specifically that they're doing or executing?
I guess if there's one common denominator of these most successful luxury or high-end designers is that they're masterful marketers. They're super self-promoters. They realize that first and foremost, they're not selling their design services or their or fabrics or formica. First and foremost, they're selling themselves. And consequently, when it comes to blowing their horns and tooting their flutes, they are amazing at that. And this doesn't surprise me in a way, because I have found over the years that the most financially successful design professionals that I have met and worked with and trained and written bios for, the most financially successful ones are not necessarily the best designers. They're not necessarily the ones who have won the most awards, or they've been published the most places, or they have the most certifications. The most financially successful design professionals are simply the best personal salesmen and the best personal saleswomen. They are just really good at promoting themselves, and consequently, they've risen to the top of their careers.
Right. And it's true. And the thing is, the caution here is you're not suggesting promoting in a car salesman way. You're suggesting self-promotion and marketing in an authentic way that speaks to you and your brand, but to do it, not just think about it.
Yeah, and to differentiate yourself, figure out what it is that you do, what your specialty is, what your style is that makes you unique from all the thousands of others in your marketplace who call themselves designers or decorators or architects, and promote that. That's really what it is, And we've talked in previous shows about how the $1 million personal marketing word is only.
Right, right.
To be able to say you're the only designer who carries a certain product line. You're the only kitchen and bath professional who specializes in offering a certain type of service. You're the only architect who specializes in working with a certain client niche. Tell me what only you do, and I will buy only from you. And that's the philosophy. That's the mindset of a lot of these very, very high-end, successful design professionals.
So they've spent a lot of time identifying what is that differentiator, and then they sing it from the rooftops.
Yeah, and it's not a case of follow the leader here. They figure they are the leaders, and so they decide what it is, And one of the things that's interesting about these people, so many design professionals I have met, and I'm sure you have met, they're in a situation where their business runs them. The phone rings, and that pretty much decides what they're going to be doing. These are individuals who run their business. They are very intentional, as you said. They have a laser beam focus on their goals, their financial goals, and all these other aspects of their career. And consequently, they have been able to shape careers which are second to none. And they really stood out in their fields and have become very famous as a result of that kind of focus.
It is remarkable when you speak to somebody that exhibits that level of intention and focus. It's different. The conversation is different, and it's inspiring, right?
Yeah, really. And it's very original. And you can tell that they've really done some soul searching and figured out what it is about them that is their unique selling proposition, what it is about the design services they offer that's really special. Or maybe it's a philosophical view or something like that. But whatever it is something which they market incessantly and effectively, and have risen to the top.
Did you find, Fred, that some, many, all, hardly any, did they come up the ranks? Do they just like birth themselves as a luxury designer and do that, or were they, hey, I used to do the neighborhood, houses just like everybody else, but with focus and intention and crafting my message, I rose up. Like how did they get to that luxury market? Do they just go there, or do they work their way up to it?
Unsurprisingly, no one was born a luxury designer. No one was lying in his or her crib saying, okay, I'm here, let's go. These are people of all ages from all over the world in markets large and small. Many of them started out in other careers. There's really no profile. I mean, it just seems that they have, as you say, risen up through the ranks and created a clientele in the market. Oftentimes, it has been it's come from networking, knowing the right people. But I would say that there's really no method to the madness. It's some of them have come up from marketplaces which you would consider to be small, and where you would expect there'd be a lot of competition, but they've been able to rise above the noise and make themselves heard by coming up with something unique, something special about their approach, and that's been effective. And when you think about it, that's something all of our listeners can adopt as well. Decide what their own unique selling point is, and then make that the focus of their marketing.
So, it's funny, Fred, I have had so many designers ask me, over the past few years since you've been on the show. I know Fred Berns says on your show, what's your only? But when you just said it there, they've come up with what's unique about them. A lot of designers struggle with that. And you give these, these bio briefings and all of this all the time. I know we're not completely off track here because it does illustrate possibly what you've learned from these conversations. Just what are some of the things, without naming names, obviously, that some of the onlys are, so a designer listening can grab onto some tangible thing of what you're talking about here?
In one case, it was as simple as being the only designer in her area who had a real estate background, who had a real estate license. And therefore, she really understood the marketplace. It was a high-end marketplace, but something as simple as that,
Right. So we're not, and that's what I say to them all the time. You're not looking for an earth-shattering thing. You're looking for that little slice of perspective that makes you different, right? So the only designer that has a real estate license in the area, that's not this big, huge statement, but it is a big, huge statement. That's the point of it, right?
Yeah, because she could talk about the fact that in this particular marketplace, she knew how to enhance the value of these properties. She was very familiar with a lot of the real estate in the area, and her clientele was very particular about having unique, one-of-a-kind looks in their design, and so she was so knowledgeable about the local real estate. She knew what it would take to come up with a kitchen that was not duplicated anywhere else,
right?
Because she had been in so many homes. So a lot of times, getting back to only and optimizing your only, a lot of times it's putting your career under a microscope, thinking about what you your past, what did you used to do, where your expertise is. Maybe it's thinking about clients you've worked with in the past, problems you've solved, challenges you've helped overcome, and coming up with that $1 million phrase that pays to talk about how you're the only one in your area who.
Right.
And,
okay. Awesome.
It's very effective.
Yeah. So now we're back to the interior designers and architects that you've interviewed, and you found that really none of them was born a luxury designer. Is there some? So they established they established their unique gifts, they established their unique voice, they established their marketing, and they're happy and prepared and able to spread that message. And they established the mechanism for doing that. Okay, so there's not a marketing lesson, but the point is that they put those things in place. But then are there characteristics or things that you discovered in common, how they crack into that luxury market, how they make that crossover, that transition?
Well, it's a topic we've talked about before. What they do is look for pain. They pinpoint the pain. They focus on the most challenging, the biggest challenges faced by the high-end clients they want to work with. And think of high-end luxury clients and what their pain might be. So we're talking, these are people who don't have time. They're very busy. They don't really have the resources to design their estates or their villas or whatever it is. They're very ego-driven, so they're very concerned about coming up with unique, one-of-a-kind looks for their properties. They really want to stand out. They want their homes to speak to the success that they've achieved in their careers, in many cases. So this becomes the focus of these design professionals we're talking about. When it comes to social networking, when it comes to marketing, they talk and they tweet and they text and they blog to these pain points of these high-end luxury designers. And this is a success strategy anyone can and should use in 2018. This idea of pinpointing the biggest challenges faced by the kind of clients you want to work with, and coming up and positioning yourself as a caregiver, coming up with solutions and how they can overcome those kind of issues. In some cases, some of their clients live in places so big that they don't even know how to begin to furnish those homes.
Right.
So that becomes a pain point. In some cases, their clients are famous movie stars, athletes, producers, directors, and they have multiple residences all over the world. And so it's a case of trying to design these properties that they don't even live in. So there's a lot of unique issues they face. But again, bringing it back to our listeners here, this is true of your clients as well, of your ideal clients. They have pain points. There are things that drive them crazy, drive them nuts. All you need to do is identify these and address these in all of your marketing. And when you write a blog post, don't tell me about this cool fabric line that you saw in High Point. I want to know about the biggest challenges your clients face when it comes to designing or remodeling their space or upgrading their offices or whatever, and speak to that in your marketing, and you will really connect with them. You become an expert in your field simply by pinpointing and present the pain and presenting yourself as someone who is knowledgeable about these issues.
Okay, so what you're saying in there is that if I'm listening, I'm an interior designer that is very happy and right now just wants to fill my pipeline with quality clients, and maybe my target demographic is a family with small children. Instead of writing, if I've just had, been to KBiz or Dallas Market or anywhere else, instead of writing a blog post about how I went to Dallas Market or how I went to KBiz, you might write a blog post that says how unique Krypton fabrics and Sunbrella fabrics are so perfect for your busy family with kids and dogs. And I happen to see these at the Dallas Market. So you can weave it in, right? You weave it in that you're keeping up on the trends and you're a travel designer and that you're interested in what's new. But the focus of the blog post isn't that you are at the market. The focus is the pain point. I love it.
And maybe you're doing a YouTube video, or maybe you're doing a blog post or a special report on the 5 biggest challenges faced by interior design challenges faced by young families in the Dallas market, something like that. And simply by putting that out there, number one, you're going to stir up a lot of interest. But number two, you're going to position yourself as the expert.
Right. Okay.
And not just as a designer. A lot of these very successful luxury designers don't just come across as interior designers or architects. They come across as interior consultants. Mm-hmm. They come across as people who partner with their clients because they're so knowledgeable about the issues faced by the luxury marketplace. I mean, again, there's unique problems that each niche of the market faces. Your job, your mission is to pinpoint these and position yourself as the caregiver, so to speak. We've talked in a past show, I think, Luann, about the highest paid salaried professionals in America are physicians and surgeons, because people will pay any price. It doesn't matter what they have to pay to get their pain taken care of, to get their challenges overcome. And so that's true, I think, in design as well. If you can really identify the biggest obstacles faced by those clients you want to work with and address those in your marketing, then you will become their single source of design expertise.
Right. And I understand what you're saying, too, when you talk about trying to break into the luxury market and the positioning that you have with yourself. when you say you're more, it's when you said almost like an interior consultant, it's almost like a tastemaker. You're almost like a partner. So because I know the luxury designers that I've worked with at WindowWorks, most often it doesn't simply stop. The services that they provide don't stop at the furnishing. It goes to, filling the closets, to outfitting the refrigerators. It goes to really closely designing the master bedroom closet based on the exact number of Versace pocketbooks they have. You know what I mean? And so the thing is, it's more of a, I know what you need and I want to hear more of what you need, but I'm not shocked and surprised that you need a glass enclosed closure for your closet for all of your pocketbooks and all of your shoes so that you can walk in and see which one you need. Yes. Right? It's like you have to express that level of I understand. And that's when you're saying you have to sit and think about. Now, it might be difficult for a lot of us to think of it as a pain point that I have 300 pairs of shoes that I need to be able to see at a moment's notice. However, if you have 300 pairs of shoes and your friend or your husband or your wife calls you at 4 and says, meet me in the city for dinner at 6, you really need to see them all and make a decision.
That is a very real world problem if you're a luxury client. And
laughing but true, right? Laughing but true.
Yes, it is. And one of the things I've discovered is that all of these, one of the common denominators of all of these very, very high-end luxury designers that I'm talking to is they're all problem solvers. They're all solving problems in their design, and you go to their websites and they really address problems, and that's what makes their luxury clientele comfortable with them, because those luxury clients feel as if these designers understand their pain, understand their issues, and consequently, it's a lot easier for them to want to work with these designers. So that's.
Well,
it's not rocket science.
Right. I had on the show recently Sandra Espinay, and of course, when I'm talking with you, I have no idea if it's on yet or hasn't come on yet. But the point is that I've had the conversation. Let's say that, and she is a luxury interior designer. Basically, her wheelhouse is 35,000 square foot homes and multiple homes for the same client, like you mentioned, all over parts of the world. And one of the things that she expressed that made it, what's interesting is what she expressed is that how she was raised in this environment and that she understood the challenges and the needs and the wants from having grown up in this lifestyle. And so the point is that it's well made, so that she, in other words, it backs up what you're saying. She comes by the information from her upbringing, but you can come by the information other ways. But the point is that if you're going to work in any market, but in particular this luxury market, you really can't minimize things that you think are hashtag first world problems. It is a real problem for that particular client. And if you want to be taken seriously by that client, you must take their issues seriously.
Most definitely. And when it comes to marketing yourself, there's a lot of design professionals who are trying to make this step in 2018. They're trying to elevate themselves from being busy designers to luxury level high-end designers. And it begins, I tell them when I work with them, it begins with your bio. It's something which I write for design professionals all over the world. If you are looking to crack the luxury market and you have worked in the past with Fortune 500 company executives, let's just say, that's what you really want to emphasize. If in the past you've worked with professional athletes, or what I'm saying is drop names, not actually drop
the name,
right. But talk about your highest end clients in the past to make these prospective clients of yours comfortable with you as someone, again, who knows their space. And so even if you worked with one Fortune 500 company executive in the past, it's worth mentioning in your bio and your promotional materials, because it positions you to make this step. And even if you've had very few high-end clients in the past, what matters is not the ones you haven't had. What matters is the ones you've had. And so you really want to emphasize that.
And I would say to you that from our experience at WindowWorks, there is, in order to survive at the luxury market and to thrive at the luxury market with that client, customer service attention to detail, beck and call is the order of the day. There's no, oh, well, I don't really include that, or, oh, that's, asking too much. It's give, and give and give again. And that's, in my experience, that's how we've earned the luxury clients that we have. We just service them to the point that they would never do a project without us, because they understand that they have to, they want 10 things, they have to enunciate 3, and the other 7 are coming along because we're going to get it done for them.
And what you have done in those cases, you've made yourself a necessity, not a frill.
Exactly.
And I think that that's important. If people are committed to wanting to take their career to the next level, they have to come across as a necessity. So I wanted to share with you and our listeners these habits which I've come across. Again, these aren't strategies as much as common habits which these high-end, very successful luxury designers seem to share. And let me go over, there's a list of 7 that I've composed here, and if it's okay, I'll just run through these quickly just to kind of, and again, I want to go back to what I was saying before. We're not talking cutting-edge, state-of-the-art rocket science here. We're talking about basic stuff, Luann. This is the kind of thing that you would think anyone could do and anyone could implement. The first of these is again, becoming master self-promoters, tooting their horns, tooting their flutes and blowing their horns whenever possible. Are these people better designers? Maybe. Are they better self-promoters? Most definitely than most designers. So they are exceptional when it comes to blowing their horns and tuning their flutes. Number 2 is focus. And here's an area where a lot of design professionals are all over the place. A lot of designers are like ships without rudders because they don't really know where they're going with their business. You ask a designer what their number 1 goal is for 2018, and a lot of them are hem and haw and speak out of both sides of their mouth. These very successful designers we're talking about have their eyes on the prize. They know exactly the type of projects they want to work with, the type of market they want to be hanging out in. They have a financial goal. Virtually all of them I've talked to so far have a specific financial goal in mind, very lofty goal, I may add. But one of their goals is recognition. They realize that they can't keep themselves secret, and because they're master self-promoters, one of their goals is to be published in certain publications to get the kind of recognition that they feel is so necessary. And again, because they have this laser beam focus, they run their businesses. Their businesses don't run them. And they're all of them, I think, are in a situation where they don't say yes to projects when they should have said no.
Okay.
A lot of young design professionals just starting out would say yes to everything, and they end up wasting a lot of time and a lot of energy and go off on bunny trails, if you will. Right. These people are very particular about the types of projects, the type of clients they want to work with, and they don't accept anything less.
Right.
If they can. So that's characteristic number 2 is that laser beam focus. Number 3 is looking the part. And by that I mean, even before you are a luxury designer, they say it's important early on to look the part. That is, have a portfolio that blows people away. Of course, have wonderful images that you display on a regular basis. Have a website that wows people, that really spells out your specialness, that talks to that positions you as someone who's at the top of the marketplace. Of course, a killer bio. The bio says it all, and the bios of these professionals are awesome because they really again position these designers as being amazing. Physical appearance. They talk about the fact of showing up and looking the part of a high-end designer. You can't be showing up in jeans and Crocs if you are committed to becoming.
You have to dress with similarly to who you want to attract.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And finally, the only brand. They all have a brand, and many times, even though they don't recognize it as such, it has to do with the word only. That they position themselves in their marketing as the only ones who this, that, and the other. So that is looking the part is characteristic number 3, habit number 3, I should say. Number 4 is charging the part, even early on charging the part. These designers and architects charge top dollar, and they have all the way along the line. They don't compromise on their fees. It's not about let's make a deal. They attach value to themselves and they stick to their fees. And as a result, they end up in the high-end marketplace.
Right.
They don't cave when it comes to price objections. Of course, all of them have faced price objections, and they view these price objections as opportunities, not as obstacles. They realize that your chances are a lot better of sealing a deal when at least some price objections are raised. I mean, I read one study, your chances of closing a deal are 30% higher when at least some price objections are raised.
Love it.
And Harry Beckwith in the book Selling the Invisible said something like, if you don't get price objections at least two out of every 5 times, your prices are probably
too low.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's this takes a lot of guts, because especially when you're not there yet, you don't have the clients yet, you're not as busy as you'd like to be. Setting a high fee is not an easy enterprise, and there's a lot of business coaches out there who would say you're out of your friggin' mind to be raising your rates and charging top dollar when you're not at the top of your game. But as one of these designers pointed out to me, high-end clients are used to paying top dollar for top services. Right. This is the world they live in. This is the sandbox they play in. Right. They're used to paying top. Money is something which they've always equated with talent. Right. And so if as this designer was saying, if he came in offering with a bid that was way too low,
it's suspicious. The response was,
the spoken or unspoken response would be, if you're so good,
right,
why are you so cheap?
Right. The value is it's just like there's a question about the value there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So charging the part, even when you're not there where you want to be with your business, it's charging top dollar. Maybe it's doubling your current fees. That's how extreme we're talking about here. The fifth habit of these successful designers, and we've talked about this a little bit, they're problem solvers. They market to the pain. They realize that their luxury clients, or the kind of clients they want to work with, have humongous egos, and there's all sorts of challenges built around those. They want to be unique. They want to stand out. They do a lot of entertaining. They want their residences. They want their workspaces to say success. These luxury clients don't have any resources. They don't have a lot of time. They just want their space to convey their star power. That's really it,
Right.
So these are the problems that these luxury designers are tweeting about and texting about and blogging about all the time. That's where they're coming from. Habit number 6 here is selling from the top down, saving the best for first. The old expression. These high-end designers feel that as the best in the business, they should show the best, show their best stuff first. That is the top-of-the-line product lines. They're rolling out, beginning their most, if you will, highest-end, most expensive design and architectural services they talk about first, because their attitude is that their clients don't have a clue what their budget is.
Right.
There's real pessimism among these high-end designers who I've interviewed about this whole idea of budget and what a client's budget is. Now, naturally, they're dealing with some very wealthy people who have seemingly a limitless budget, but some of them have been pointed out even early on. They really question whether people had a clue what their budget was for a design project. And so they don't waste their time trying to come up with some kind of arbitrary number, some kind of arbitrary figure or target to work with. They simply show the best. They mention their best stuff. And as one of these designers said to me, I show the best and let them decide what they can or cannot afford afterwards.
That's what I always say. People are grown-ups. They can have it or they don't have to have it. That's, you don't make the most expensive thing less expensive so they can afford it. That's what that costs. If you don't want it, let's go to this one.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just not part of their mindset to try to pin these people down to some arbitrary number, because they don't think that's an effective, that does them a disservice and does you a disservice.
Right. They present the best that they can possibly design and then let the chips fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the last of these habits, these common denominator habits that I've come across so far, and maybe when we talk in 6 months, I'll have more habits to share with you. But these people are propelled by persistence and perseverance. They are propelled. all of them have had setbacks. All of these people, they all have a story to talk about some bad breaks they had early on, some mistakes they made, some bad advice they got. But what they all did was pick themselves up, brush themselves off, and moved on. Right. And this is and this isn't just a motivational message. This is a very important business concept for all of our listeners out there. The most successful people in this business, the most prosperous high-end luxury designers, are probably the most stubborn. The ones who just don't get derailed. I mean, a lot of these people have had long careers, and the economy has gone south in many cases. They've lost major contracts. They've dealt with unethical suppliers and vendors at times. They've had a myriad of problems and obstacles. But the attitude they have is it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you. And they respond with a persistent, persevering attitude and a belief that they believe in the courage of their convictions, and so they go on. So that is habit number 7: is just be stubborn. Don't quit.
Well, and I also think from my experience with coaching is that I find that sometimes that when something happens that knocks you back on your feet a little bit, that often the designer that struggles to get through that is because they're internalizing it as a personal something that happened to them, as opposed to this just happened in my business, as opposed to this vendor specifically, how could they do that to me? It's like, well, that vendor may not be a trustworthy vendor, but they didn't do it to you. They're probably doing it to everyone, or whatever the case may be. Or, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm finding that successful people really do process it differently, and it's a matter of teaching other people to develop a little bit of that process. It's like you said, it's for successful people, it's a stubbornness we have, but because we're not taking it personally. I can't think of anything that I've ever taken. I honestly don't think I can think of anything that I've ever taken in my business personally. It's business. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like you can hurt my feelings as a person if you're in my personal sphere, but as a client, a customer, a designer, it's business, and you're being motivated by something that has nothing to do with me. And that's what I say to a lot of people is it's not about you. It's about them. The client isn't motivated to affect you as a person. They're dealing with what's happening inside them. So when you hit a trouble spot or something like that, pick up, stand up, go on, and plow through like you're saying that these people do. And that's a common characteristic that they share.
And every one of these designers I spoke to talked, as they looked back on their careers, they talked about setbacks. They talked about hardships. They talked about wanting to quit the business and do something else. They talked about self-doubt.
Right.
And I guess the message here is that to our listeners is that you may be going through a rough patch right now, and you may think that becoming a luxury high-end designer is the furthest thing from reality there is. But understand that these people who have made it were sitting in your seat once upon a time, were wearing your shoes once upon a time, and they just powered through it.
Right. It's the truth. And it's because you have to really want it. It's just like anything else in this life. You have to really want it. So if you just think it'd be great to be a luxury designer, well, that's really not enough focus. It has to be your driving need. Like you said, these are individuals that at the beginning of the year, they know what their goals are. They know the things that are in place. They know what they're chasing. It's not just like, at the end of the year, like, oh, did any of this happen? It's an intentional process. I also love the little bit in number 4 about charging the part. And I love the particular statement that you said that it's an opportunity when someone turns your price down, because I believe that as well. Whenever I have somebody that has an objection on price, to me, it is like I said, that is okay, home run. Okay, let's say really great if every single price you presented, they just said yes. Okay, I love that too. believe me. I'm not. That's fine with me.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that is fine with me. I'm not going to say it's not. But when someone says, "Oh, blah blah blah," this or that or the other thing, I don't think, "Uh-oh." I think, "Okay, this is my opportunity to re-pour on them all the value I'm going to bring." And I also say to myself, I clearly did not express it the first time. Thank you for giving me the chance to say it again. That's what I say to my head. Oh, thank goodness they said this to me, because now I know that I was not clear and I didn't make them feel everything that I'm going to bring to the table that's going to make their life easier. And so, no, it's not, oh, hey, yeah, another $20 up or another $2,000 off. It's no. Let me restate for you all the things I'm doing for this, and usually that will be the thing that they say, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay.
One of these designers I was talking to a couple of days ago was saying that the way he sees it, people have to be at least somewhat interested in their design services to even ask about the price, to object to the price. Otherwise, they can say, well, thanks anyway. Go play in traffic.
That's right.
To this particular designer, it's an expression of interest when somebody objects to the price, because it shows that they have some skin in the game.
You're exactly right, because the person who, like I said, when someone doesn't commit to purchasing with you, you missed them. You did not make the connection to how you solved their problem. And if they don't come back and tell you that, and they just say thanks and don't go on their day, you've missed the opportunity. But the objection is like, oh, it's your red flag. Holy crap, I missed it. I didn't express it. And so you go back and you give it again. I just had a situation with a brand new designer coming to WindowWorks a couple of weeks ago, and her first client that she brought to us, and we quoted it, and she called me up and she said, the client had 4 different options on price on one window, and she said she really likes the most expensive one, but she only wants to spend this much money. And it was hard for me to be polite. I was just like, like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but when she goes to Macy's, does she get just what she wants because she wants? And then, of course, I was polite, and but I literally took a moment to say and express to this designer, I'm not changing my price. You decide what you're going to do, but I'm going to give you some advice, hard-earned on 35 years of playing this game. If you lower your price for this particular project, she will ask you to lower the price on every one you do, because the designer was trying to express to me that this is an opportunity, that another room might come and this room might come, and I'd really like to get this. And I'm like, if you really want to do this, then you stick to your guns. I said, but keep expressing all that you are doing for her. And I said, and that's how you do this, So, yeah, so I love it. Charge, the part. Charge the part.
And again, they absolutely positively do not compromise on price. Now, maybe they'll lessen the scope of the project and charge less.
Right.
But these designers who I've interviewed so far are spot on when it comes to sticking to their price and attaching a value to who they are and what they do.
Yeah, of all the markets, the luxury market, as you said, is accustomed to paying. And to me, what I have learned in my experience with WindowWorks is that as long as you are willing to do everything humanly possible to make that experience seamless and everything that they could desire, they will write the check. So that's
because,
the thing.
If you've identified their pain, if you've identified their issues, because as we said before, people will pay any price to overcome these challenges.
And you can't just raise your prices and not deliver. But if you deliver, then you're entitled to raise your price, and you'll be respected for it. And they'll respect. Like you said at one point, if the price is too low and it doesn't align with the image and the marketing that you've created, it's suspicious. It's like, what's going on with that?
It raises a red flag. And I think that this speaks to an issue which a lot of designers, I think, struggle with. And I posed a question to one of the people I interviewed as to why is it, this has always intrigued me, how is it that so many design professionals want to work in the high-end marketplace, but so few do? What is that? So people spend lifetimes trying to work with high-end clients, but such a small number do. Why is it? And her response was, interior designers in general are notoriously small thinkers. They don't think big enough. They don't aim high enough. And there's way too much, as she said, one and done situations. Well, if someone goes in, does a room, gets the check, and says bye. There's no next steps. There's no call to action. There's no taking clients by the hand and leading them down the garden path, because you're partnering with these clients. They trust you. They believe in you. And as she said, I feel it's my duty to talk about what the next phase should be, because that's what I'm getting paid for. So it's thinking big. It's turning contacts into contracts. It's making the most of every opportunity. When you do have a high-end client that you're working with, don't just stop at the room. Don't just limit yourself and limit the relationship. Take it to the next level whenever you can, and at the very least, ask for referrals. If it's goodbye, at least. Oh, by the way, who else would you recommend I contact about my service?
Well, and the spin there, Fred, is when you truly value what you are doing, when you truly know that you are providing a good, valuable service to your client, then you don't feel icky about suggesting more more work for them. In other words, like you just mentioned in there, don't do one room and move on. The designer you spoke to mentioned how I like to show what could happen in the next space and where we could go next. And it's her duty to guide them that way. And if you picture that you're valuable to that client, then yes, that client loves their home. That client wants their home to be beautiful. So if you've done one room and the next room isn't so beautiful, you're the person in there helping them figure out that it's time to do another room, and I'm the person to help you do it when you're ready. And
I love the way one of the designers put it when I talked to her a couple of weeks ago. She said, "I partner with my clients." Mm-hmm. My high-end clients are my partners, and they view me as a partner. So this isn't about a job. This is about a relationship.
Right.
And that's how she approaches every new client and every ongoing client. They're partners.
I have to say that was echoed in Sandra Espinet's conversation as well. She more than a few times referenced how this luxury market, these clients are her friends, that she organizes 2 and 3 day shopping trips with them to all parts of the world to go and do art buying or furniture buying or whatever, and that she has lunch with them and dinner with them, and they become her friends. And she is when you think about it, she was describing that relationship, not only the friend relationship but the guide relationship, the person that is the arbiter of good taste for them, the person that they look back and say, hey, what am I going to do to make not just my dining room, the table, the chairs, the wallpaper, but my table settings. What should my plates be? What should the flowers in the room be? Because she becomes so important to them as the sounding board and the advisor for everything that's beautiful in their home.
And she's a partner. She's clearly established herself as a partner,
exactly.
and that's part of the partnership relationship.
Exactly. So it completely rings true to the exact conversation that I recently had. So that's awesome, Fred. I love it. It's so good. And I have to say, too, you could, you tell me if you agree with me, but I would say this conversation was based on your research and many conversations with luxury interior designers. And you've identified common characteristics. But if a designer friend of ours is listening, and they are currently billing at $85 an hour for their fees, and they are wanting to be $250 an hour. The principles are the same. You change some of the language, you say, some of the pain points are different, but the principles are the same as far as how to make the jump from any level. So if you're 10 years in business and you're really doing a great job and you want to go to that luxury market, this is valuable. But if you're 2 years in business and you just want to get to that next level, stop saying yes to, I'm going to do this, I'm only going to do that. I mean, you agree that it's semantics.
It's that, and taking control of your business,
right?
And deciding if you're serious and committed about this luxury marketplace, then have at it.
There's certain things to do, right?
And a first step, I think, as we talked about, is looking the part. And by that I mean spending money on a photographer who can come up with images that are amazing of the work you've done, and creating a bio. There's that B word again. Creating a bio that
reflects it.
reflects your expertise and and puts you out there as a high-end designer. Having a website, again, that addresses this marketplace, and having a blog and doing videos and marketing yourself in this way. But looking the part and charging the part come before actually being there. I mean, it's not as if you can decide you've heard this broadcast. Okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to be a luxury designer. You've got to lay some groundwork. I don't mean to imply that it can happen overnight, but it begins with putting yourself out there in your bio and in your marketing materials as someone who is a luxury design professional who's expanding into this area.
Right.
And
it's 100% right, because you do, when you get that first opportunity, when they go to look at all of your, collateral, it all has to line up with, if they're at a luncheon, they're at a social event, and they get a referral, and somebody says, I've heard that this is a luxury designer, truly talented, give them a call. They're going to look at the website first, and if you're like, oh, I didn't do that yet, no, I'm sorry, they're not calling you. It has to line up with whatever they've heard and how they heard about you. It has to line up. So I agree. You have to get your ducks in a row. You have to be prepared to get lucky. That's what I always say, Fred. You have to be prepared to get lucky.
That. And I want to steal that if I could.
Just credit me. That's okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention that I offer a couple of services to help people who are looking to crack into this marketplace. We talked about looking the part. One of them is a website once-over. It's a short 30-minute coaching session, how we can tweak your website, how we can change the content to make it much more compelling, to kind of put you out there in this luxury space. It could be that your current website is more of a hindrance than a help. It's blocking you rather than boosting you. And so what we talk about in this 30-minute coaching session is what we can do with your marketing materials in general, but your website in particular, to position you in the higher place. And people can access that through website once-over. Website onceover.com is the coaching program that I offer. The other one, of course, is bio briefing. The bio briefing is where we talk about how to upgrade and update your bio in such a way that you will come across as someone who is highly qualified, an expert in your field, and a high-end designer.
That's awesome.
And anyone who's interested in that 30-minute coaching session, go to biobriefing.com, BIOBRIEFING, biobriefing.com, and you'll get more information about that.
I love it. And I'm just going to remind you that you can get more goodness and wisdom from Fred on all these past episodes, 22, 48, 96, 174, and 226. And Fred Berns will be at High Point this spring of 2018. So make sure you look there and attend his session at High Point. And
actually, if I may interrupt, the High Point session is really based on this topic. It's selling methods of the masters.
Awesome.
And if you've liked what you've heard here, you're going to love that presentation that takes place, I think, on April 15th. Check the schedule.
I love it. And it's so funny, Fred. I didn't tell you this before we started the show, but I'm going to be presenting at the International Window Coverings Expo in Tampa, March 27, 28. And I'm doing Mastering the Art of High-Ticket Window Treatment Sales.
There we go.
So it's the same thing. So it's
I want to be in that audience.
So this is a topic that I love, and I know you're great at it. And I just have to say, every single time you come onto the podcast, I am just so thankful and grateful for the way that you just cut through things and you break it down for us, and you just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You got to do it this way.
It ain't rocket science.
This
isn't, voodoo. It's basic stuff. It's just a matter of our listeners applying the habits that high-end, successful luxury designers are implementing all the time.
Exactly. I think it's a combination of hearing the same message multiple times from different people, and then finally getting that one moment where you just say, okay, I am turning this inspiration into action. Today's the day. I'm making my list, and I'm actually going to do something on the list. So I love it. Thank you so much, Fred, for joining me again today on The Well-Designed Business.
Luann, it's been a privilege and a joy to be with you once again.
Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.